nearly everybody in these strange times that we're in at this moment in time. How many times have I mentioned time? Quite a lot, really, but still in mind. So I thought I'd start with a joke. It's not like me, really, but anyway. And I thought I'd read out a letter. Dear Mike, I think it's Mike, I've been unable to sleep since I broke off your engagement to my daughter. Will you forgive and forget? I was much too sensitive about your mohawk haircut, your tattoo and pierced nose. And I realised that motorcycles aren't really that dangerous. And I really should not have reacted that way to the fact that you've never had a proper job. I'm also very sure that some other very nice people live camping in the churchyard. And sure, yeah, my daughter is only 18 and wants to marry you instead of going to Cambridge. After all, you can't learn anything about life from books, can you? I sometimes forget how backward I can be. I was wrong. I was a fool. And now I've come to my senses, and you have my full blessing to marry my daughter. Sincerely, your future father-in-law. P.S. Congratulations on being the only ticket holder for the Euro Millions lottery jackpot of £150 million. Now, it's a long time since I've stood here and talked in front of a congregation. And that is a story, and it might be an interesting test, because I'm prepared to bet you that after you've forgotten everything else that I'm about to tell you, you might still remember about that letter, because that's the way we are, and we do like a good story. Jesus knew better than anybody a good story hits home, which is why in his short ministry he told his disciples and followers so many good and memorable stories. Now, if I were a betting man, I would guarantee that if you asked people what it is that they remember from the Bible, what do you remember from the Bible? What's your favourite piece from the Bible? What stands out for you in the Bible?
Prodigal son.
Pardon?
The prodigal son.
Anybody else? Okay. It wouldn't be the opening chapters of Leviticus or Numbers. No, I had a good look at them during the week as I was putting this together, and goodness me.
Mike,
Yeah?
tell you a little story. When I was a young boy, about 8 or 9, I decided I would read the Bible from cover to cover. I got as far as Leviticus and gave up.
We're far more likely to remember the parable of the Good Samaritan, or even this particular parable, the parable of the sower. So why did Jesus choose to give us his most important messages as stories rather than as straightforward instructions? Because I think he knew that we would remember them, and he knew that we would relate them to our own lives. This story is timeless, and stories, personal stories, are more powerful. I mean, some of you will have tuned into our Zoom gatherings, and the personal stories shared there, especially the most recent one, led by Rachel, we heard some powerful, powerful stories of how God has worked, or perhaps hasn't worked in people's lives, but still, they still have a faith in God. And today we've got one of those famous stories. It's a short one, but it's a powerful one. Do you know how many Christians there are in the world today? You're close. It's 2.3 billion. It's roughly about a third of the world's population. We are the largest, or Christians are the largest religion being rapidly, we call it, chased by Islam. Now, who would have thought that 2,000 years ago, when Jesus' body was planted into the ground, that his body would rise again in 3 days, and that his resurrected spirit would scatter more and more seed and grow until it was 2.3 billion people and counting. You see, when the seed of Jesus Christ is planted into our hearts, when the seed of the kingdom of heaven is planted within us, a miracle may occur. And that's the power of this particular seed. The seed of faith has been sown for us and in us. We nurture it and we see it grow. In every action we take, in every thought we think, the tiny seeds of eternity are present and growing. Nothing is superfluous, nothing is wasted, nothing is in vain. We might think that what we might say to our children, to our friends, to our colleagues in standing up for our faith is wasted, is forgotten, is treated with contempt. But I believe that nothing is wasted, nothing is in vain, and nothing is superfluous. That what we do on earth, how we live, what we give ourselves over to, and what we say matters. It's funny, really, that with a few exceptions, we don't tend to talk too much about God. We don't tend to talk to others about God. We'll talk to each other about God, but those who are in the wider community, perhaps, we don't tend to talk too much about God. We can talk about sex. Well, some of us might. We can talk about Facebook, the number of followers or likes and dislikes, Instagram. We can talk about getting our haircut. Who's had a recent haircut? Anybody? Mine's coming on Friday. We can chat in our social distancing queues as we're waiting to go into a supermarket. We can talk about the fact that, boy, having a pint tasted so good after all those weeks of the pub being shut. We can talk about seeing football at long last on TV. We can talk about whatever it is, the binge series that we've been watching on Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever it is like that. We can talk endlessly about our hobbies. I remember once somebody giving a talk, J. John, and he said to the people gathered at that particular meeting, hands up if you've got a hobby. And nearly everybody shut their hands up. Okay? So he just picked somebody out and said, right, what's your hobby? And that person stood up and for 10 minutes talked about what his particular hobby was. Matter of fact, J. John had great difficulty stopping him from saying anything further about what his hobby was. And he said, wouldn't it be great if we could talk with as much enthusiasm and energy about God as well? We don't tend to talk much about God. So what set of values determine our diary? What view of life determines how we make decisions? What perspective about the nature of and purpose of our existence forms our everyday priorities? How does our thinking shape what we do and say every day? Now, I keep coming back to the Zoom meeting that we had on Tuesday. Everybody there, I mean, Rachel was quite clever in what she did. She had a little glass jar and pulled out names of people who were, well, asked, volunteered, pushed into sharing what God meant to them, or what questions they would ask of God. And everybody there whose name was plucked out shared something. And what they shared, I think, was special, was blessed. And if people on the outside had seen Christians being honest, by and large, I think it's probably fair to say that people had felt let down by God, let down in other circumstances of their life, but they still believed. They still acknowledge God as God, Lord of all, that he is our rock, our anchor, our hope. There was a passion, a sincerity, a deep belief that without God, I can't do anything. So let's bring God into our daily lives, so folk will know who God is. You don't have to be eloquent, stammer, blush, stumble, but dare to speak. And I hope you will remember that, as well as the pathetic story about the rich son-in-law, that you will go and scatter yourselves and bear much fruit.